Hi, everyone. Welcome to our first episode of our podcast, Postcall Beyond the White Coat, the postcall that takes you on an unforgettable journey into the lives of doctors. I'm Dr. Selina, founder of Medic Footprints Malaysia, a platform that connects doctors to diverse careers in healthcare. Now, this podcast is more than just about medicine, it's about the people behind the white coat and the impact that they have on healthcare. Now, we'll be diving deep into the experiences of doctors, from those who are still practicing to those that have transitioned into non-clinical careers. Now, we'll hear inspiring stories from fellow doctors both at home and abroad as they share their triumphs, challenges, and everything in between. So why post-call? Because we know that after a long and demanding on-call shift, doctors deserve some time to chill and unwind. Now, this podcast is a perfect opportunity to do just that, as we explore the challenges and triumphs of the medical profession and gain insights into the inner workings of the healthcare industry. Now, in today's episode, we will be exploring non-clinical career options for doctors. And our first podcast guest we have is Dr. Khairul Khalid, who has transitioned into the clinical research and health tech industry. He's the operations manager for Asia Pacific at Hematogenix, a hospital and healthcare organization. Dr. Khairul has been with Hematogenix for the past 4 years, and he is also the co-founder and medical director at Remedi Innovations. Welcome, Dr. Khairul.
Thank you, Selina, for the opportunity.
Yeah, thank you for joining us today. Could you tell us a little bit more about your backstory and how you transitioned?
I think the point where I decided to transition from the clinical side into more of a corporate side in general is when I love being in the emergency room. I mean, I love the rush. I love solving puzzles, and I certainly have satisfaction seeing my patients who came in with breathless, um, you know lifeless at once, and seeing them walking out of the emergency room gives me a lot of pleasure. But at one point, I was contemplating if there must be other ways that I can see joy in these patients' lives, other than them being sick, right? And there must be also other ways to contribute outside of the four walls of the hospitals as well. And from that point, I was searching around. I was just simply searching around. I think this is way back in 2011, 2010, where I was just simply sending all my CVs to recruiters, and I was lucky. There's one recruiter who got my CV, and there was an opening at that time in AstraZeneca, where I think they were just starting up their medical science liaison division. So I came on board, went for the interview, and the rest is history. So technically, it stems from that point of trying to search for other ways that we can contribute back to the patients.
Okay. Firstly, you mentioned that at one point you were just sending CVs out. Did you have a plan at that time, or was it just, oh, let's just try everything?
No, so I was looking at a few other trends in the industry, and looking at international pharmaceutical company recruitment trends, and more of what are the vacancies available, right? So I started off from there, and most of the time, most of these big pharmaceutical companies, they have their own portal of you sending your CVs, but also regionally in Asia Pacific, they work through recruitment agencies. So I was just lucky to find one, and there was an opening, and when opportunity comes knocking to your door, I don't think we want to make a pass. That's all.
So you mentioned that there was some frustration that stemmed from what it is that how you're treating patient, and you wanted to get to before the problem started. Can you tell me a little bit more about that frustration?
I wouldn't say it's frustration, but there's this dichotomous view of doctors, right? You want to see patients to be better, but at the same time, you know, especially in my setting in the emergency department last time, is that you will have to face their worst first. You know, so how this dichotomy, whether you want to see them in the happy days, when you know it's not such a great problem, or you want to see them getting better from a worse state. So I choose the former in the sense that, you know, I would want to wake, I want to work where, you know, I want to prevent people from getting sick, rather than, you know, treating them when it's already too late, right? So I mean, that's mainly the driver. If you can make it ideally, but of course there are also other factors, you know, personal growth, personal progress, you know, career wise, where do you want to go from here? So I think that's pretty much the crux of it.
Okay, so you mentioned your reasons for leaving clinical medicine was due to like personal growth and also professional progress outside the hospital system that can, and at the same time, benefit patients. So tell us about that experience and how did you go about accomplishing those goals?
Um, so I am also a person who doesn't like complaining a lot. Because you know, of course, it's parts and parcels of being human to complain. But you know, rather than complaining, let's try to take action, right? So and I take into my personal life to ensure that, you know, I'm a person who's more of action rather than a complainer. So how do I go about that is, you know, I took the chance, like I said, opportunity knocks my door, and I see that, you know, okay, I can use my medical knowledge. And, you know, when I joined AstraZeneca, I love the fact that we are looking at medicines before it goes into the clinic. We have the chance to look into clinical data, clinical trials, preclinical data, early phase clinical trials data, which is, for me, is I love reading and, you know, having a knowledge ahead of our peers in the clinics gives me a lot of, I would say, empowerment. Although, you know, when we look, when you know, eventually when I was already working as an MSL, I met up with clinicians. The perspective of me, a doctor, being in the pharmaceutical, you know, companies might not jive well at that time. This is way back in 2012, where things are not that, you know, not that. I would say I'm the first one in my batch to leave ministry, you know, after I've completed my compulsory service. So having meet up with clinicians, you really need to put up to your mental, right? You need to know your clinical data. You need to know why you know, why you're making this argument. Why is this newer generation medications better than the current ones? What are the current guidelines that the clinicians are using, and why, you know, this is the gap that you're looking at. So I made a point of myself, like I said, I don't want to be someone who's in a position to just do my work day to day, but I want to be in a position where I leave marks in the industry, which I did. I mean, God bless. So during my tenure in AZ as a MSL for cardiovascular, so I proposed, and I think up to till today, there's an ACS protocol where a protocol to use referral from the district to the tertiary centers, using the latest guideline-based medicine, using the latest medicine as well. So, and this current ACS referral network, they call it, is currently still ongoing in Klang Valley and the rest of the, and it started off from, you know, from an MSL in the pharmaceutical company, and it's taken up by the National Health Association already this juncture. So like I said, so I stick true to my objectives. So there are other ways that definitely, you know, we can contribute back to patients outside of the four walls of the hospital.
Okay, so what was instrumental in helping you in your career transition? Because, as doctors, most of us are very familiar within that four walls of the hospital. When a patient comes, you know what to do. But, we have no experience outside. What's outside like? And it's actually quite scary, to take a step out because you don't know what the outside world is like. So what was instrumental for you in your career transition?
I would say two things. I have a good support from my wife then, you know, and eventually my kids now, who's not, you know, it's like I said, it's a big jump, going from familiar territories and making the jump outside of comfort zone. That's one. And secondly, when I landed on the other side, I was also lucky to meet up with my first boss and mentor in the corporate sector, Dr. Jayanti. I mean, it's amazing that she waited for me for 6 months for me to sort out my medical council, registration, leaving from the government. And then she was also instrumental in making sure, okay, how do you tread, you in the corporate sector, there's a lot of learning curve. It's a steep learning curve coming from clinical side. Uh, literally you don't sit down to work in the red zone or yellow zone, coming to a corporate world where you sit down in front of laptops and attending teleconferences, meeting up with fellow colleagues to discuss fundamental things and latest updates in the clinical trials guidelines. So it's a lot of learning curve, and I think a most crucial thing that I learned is not to look back. There were some hesitation. Why am I doing this? I could have just be the top of the game in the hospital. People call me this and that. Rather than those kind of doubts that you have along the way. But I think most important thing, I think, is the driver is family and good mentor in essence.
Okay, so what were the challenges? Because just now you did mention some of them. Like, what do you think is the biggest challenge for you, at least, when you moved out of clinical medicine into non-clinical?
The biggest, so basically the biggest driver, is it?
The biggest challenge, like what was the most difficult thing for you? Like while you are, like you just mentioned earlier, the part where you started to doubt yourself. If you're in clinical, you're that go-to person, the person who knows everything. Now you're on the other side. You're that person who needs to ask questions need to ask questions and find answers from other people. So what was the challenge there?
So two things I would answer this. Number one is, like you said, the challenge is the steep learning curve. I mean, more of from clinics to more of a scientific evidence that you just trying to put forth to the market, right? So as clinical trials, you go phase 1, phase 2, some might not see the light of the day, and so having a steep learning curve, although in the same area, is you really need to have that grit, outside of medical school, and then you have to not if you were to go for a master's program for clinicals, at least you get a master's at the end of the day. But here you are delving yourself with the prospect of just career progress rather than a cert at the end of the day. So that's number one, steep learning curve. The second challenge I have is when you interact with fellow clinicians outside of your scope, right? So trying to I would say this is just like a stigma, right? You see that if you see a medical person outside of clinicals, it's a bit of stigma. I think right now it's much more toned down. But when I was starting up, it's a lot of stigma that you need to stick to your guns. You need to stick to say to them you're good at what you do, and in that way they can see you have your mental, and that's how I see two challenges. Yeah.
Okay, so right now, you're the operations manager for Hematogenix at the Asia Pacific level. So tell us a bit about what you do there, and how far do you think you've came since you first started?
Oh wow. So there's a lot of series of events from I started off in AstraZeneca and then Boehringer, and then I joined the CRM of Clinical Research Malaysia, which is a Ministry of Health government-linked company, and then to Hematogenix. And what I do on a day-to-day basis is I have my other side of me. I like businesses, right? And I try to leverage my knowledge in terms of getting businesses as well. So Hematogenix is a good, I would say, use case for me to showcase, in the sense that so when I was still in Clinical Research Malaysia, we mapped out 5 key pillars for us to make sure Malaysia has advantages globally for clinical trials to be done in Malaysia. And one of it is to have a central laboratory for clinical trials. We were looking for a few target companies to actually, lure them to come to Malaysia to invest. And Hematogenix was, literally walked through our door. So the CEO and president literally walked through the door again. Like I said, when the opportunities come knocking, you wouldn't want to go and turn around and say bye bye, right? So I took up the opportunity. We were, as an agency of the Ministry of Health, as well as we have access to the minister, to the DG, to the KSU as one of the board members. And for the duration of about 1.5 years, I was hand holding this Hematogenix to get the approval for import license for the biospecimens, to ensure that the coordination on the ground is up and running. And at the end of the 1.5 years, when the company is all set to go, the CEO and president offered me the position of the first employee here in Malaysia and Asia Pac. So technically, I was involved in very early to setting up. I was the first employee, and now, lo and behold, we are about 50 people in the whole organization. We hire masters, PhDs. We've got, we are looking at cancer patients' samples, whether it's blood, bone marrow, or tissue, and testing them for biomarkers. And also not just testing, but we are also developing our own assay in-house. So technically, it gives me, although I'm on the business side and operation side, but I deal with my scientific peers and colleagues on a day-to-day basis. And again, coming back to my original reason why I left clinical is, I'm able to contribute back to patients outside of the four walls of the hospitals. And rather than I settle one patient at one time, I'm trying to cover as much as possible, as many patients as possible, through my work, hopefully.
Well, that's very, very insightful. I also know that you've co-founded Remedi Innovations. So tell us a bit the reasons behind that and how did that get started?
So this is another my pet project back in 2011-12. So I think 2011-12 somehow it's a year that started a lot of things in my life. So what happened was I was from a EMR-based or electronic-based hospital, right? And then I was also involved in a few other clinics outside. And my wife was working in about district hospital, about 15 minutes away from the main hospital in Alostar. And literally, someone who walks through our door in the emergency department, we have at least some notes. And then, the doctors have seen it, so we can, at least have some clues as what's going on with the patients. But when we, our colleagues outside, just 15 minutes away drive, they are at the main hospital. They have to call us at the main hospital. Okay, can you look into these patients' data, see what's going on? It's not exactly governance-wise, it's not exactly good, but whatever that helps patients, right? That juncture and whatever that we have in our disposal. So I say, okay, come on. This is a problem that we can solve, right? It's a connected medical record. Patient goes anywhere. The doctors do not have to grapple to get the data, right? So I spoke to my college mates in who's working in the IT industry. So okay, we have a problem to solve. How can we solve this, right? So from 2012 until 2017, we were talking to a lot of people, trying out a few ideas. And we got along another person who's also a developer. So by 2015, we decided, okay, in order for us to tackle this, we need to have our skin in the game in the primary care, which is at the GPs or at the clinic kesihatan, first point of contact where patients see, the doctors. And now, 2017, we have a fully functioning clinic management solutions. And we have, started off from one person, myself. Now, then the partners became 3, and then we got another one to look into cloud architecture. And now, at this juncture, Remedi Innovations is already about 11 men or 11 people strong. And we have about 120 clinics nationwide using our cloud-based solution. And we are present in Singapore, Singapore, Philippines, and of course Malaysia. And we are looking into expanding into the US soon, hopefully, if things materialize.
Wow, that is very, very impressive. So essentially, you have two jobs, am I right?
Yeah,
So how do you
yeah, that's
juggle
right.
that?
You just have to make time. I like I said, I'm just being, I blocked my time for this interview, but there was last minute change. I need to take care of my kids, but I've got to make time. So I was going through, and we were working on some of other EMR project this morning with my other teams while juggling the babysitting. I just have to make time. So technically, my working days would be juggling between these two entities. Um, you know, one is already much more stable, but we've got capable hands ongoing. But most importantly, I need to have, it's a sacrifice that you make, right? So if most of people by weekends, it's a winding down time. I took the chance on weekends to work on my other projects in Remedi, and weekdays as well. But again, it's a personal choice. You can choose either just lay down doing anything, just winding down, or just work on project that you might or might not see the fruit of the day.
Well, that's mad skills. What advice would you give if, say, young doctors want to make a career transition out of medicine?
I would approach this in a very I would say cautious way, right? Um, although I would say the success measurement in clinical or being a doctor lah, I mean traditionally is for you to specialize, and contribute back to patients at the clinic or the hospitals. If you choose to go non-clinical or corporate or whichever way, health tech, you have to ensure that you have enough research that you've done before you delve yourself into whatever. And once you have delved into it, um, you know, you try to push as much as possible before you call it quits. Because sometimes, like I said, you have doubts on what you're doing midway, and then if you just simply lose your focus and look back, I know I could have better done this way. Then your first step towards something which is not going to be fruitful will be something I would say it's a recipe for disaster lah. Yeah, in short. But like I said, my only so in short, my advice is research well. Once you are in, once you decide to make the jump, just please have a grit to finish what you started off, and I think opportunities will come. Don't and most of the time I see this in other colleagues I help to transition out from clinical, is there's little patience, right? Very little patience. You want to jump from one job to another, just I said at least learn the ropes, least as much as possible. Each position that you held outside of clinical is a opportunity for you to learn. So yeah, I would put it that way.
Well, I like how you kept repeating the word grit. I think that's something that a lot of us are, it's sort of lacking in our community. And because no one has, openly shared this and teaches that, hey, we need grit to get to where we are. So thank you so much for the insights from you, Dr. Khairul. Thank you everyone for tuning in into Post Call Beyond the White Coat. We hope that you've enjoyed listening to Dr. Khairul on how he made a successful career transition. So don't forget to hit that follow button and stay updated on our latest episodes. And if you want to explore more on alternative career path in healthcare, visit our website at www.medicfootprints.com.my. Thank you for listening, and we'll see you in the next episode.